Welcome, Crossover Report. Three guys, one mic on this late Tuesday night. NBA playoffs fully underway. Going to give a bit of an update where we are in the second round. A game tonight, obviously, a really good game between the Spurs and Thunder. So we'll talk that and the rest of the playoffs. As always, Paul Lamb, Nick Damiani, and myself, Neil Doyle. So let's jump right into it. Playoffs have been underway for about a month now. We're in the second round. Only one of those series has been clinched. That's over in the East. Cavaliers, the one seed, handled Atlanta pretty easily, won 4-0, and just have kind of moved their way through the playoffs like everybody thought they would do on the Eastern Conference. They've swept both of their series. I mean, there was a few close games in the Atlanta series, but, I mean, Cleveland still hung on and, dominated for the most part. And they seem to be, they're letting teams kind of hang around, but they seem to be getting better, and it's really interesting to see that how well they've been shooting the ball and have just been really so dominant. So, I mean, they haven't lost yet in the playoffs. We'll have about another 5 days or so, kind of like after their first round where they got to sit out and, take a rest before they will either play Toronto or Miami, who right now that series is tied at 2 apiece. Game 5 of that series will be tomorrow night. So, I mean, let's just first start off with that Toronto-Miami series tied at 2-2. It's kind of been back and forth. Last night, D. Wade had a huge game. Miami won. Where do you guys see that series going, sitting at 2-2? That, like I said, fifth game is tomorrow in Toronto. I don't know, Paulie, let's start with you. Where do you see that series maybe leaning towards?
I like Miami. I think D Wade's going to remain on a mission this series. Both teams are pretty terrible, and they're going to get absolutely run by Cleveland, especially with the injuries that they're facing. I think Hassan Whiteside's day-to-day for Miami, and then for Toronto, Valanciunas, I think is out for the series maybe. But I don't know. I think it's just whoever can last longest. Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan have not been good. Like, Toronto's been carried by, who is not Biombo. I don't even know who.
Yeah.
They just haven't really stepped up. Their stars haven't played well, so I'm taking Miami in the next two.
Nick?
I'll tell you who on the Raptors been Corey Joseph.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. That is the problem, and that's why I agree with Paul. At least Miami has somebody who can close out a game like D Wade did last game. I mean, Toronto, Lowry and DeRozan have been nothing. I think Lowry fouled out of the game yesterday with like 10 points. That's it. He's an all-star guard, finishing with 10 points in a playoff game against the Miami Heat. Goran Dragic is guarding him, and he can't score more than 10 points. That's pretty sad. That Corey Joseph is their go-to guy late in games. He took the last shot in that game with DeRozan on the floor. How does DeRozan not take the last shot? Corey Joseph. Unbelievable.
So, I mean, both of you guys have Miami winning. Even if Toronto, let's say, maybe were to win this series, do either two of these teams, I think that was the next thing I was going to ask, do they really pose a threat to the Cavaliers at all? Or do the Cavs just easily make their way through either one of these two teams? I think both of you are going to say yes. But, I mean, with how the Cavs have played, I mean, they're beating these teams. They haven't lost, so you can't really bash their play, but they're really not competing at as high a level with how good of a team we think they are. Do you think down the stretch when they get, let's say, maybe against Toronto or Miami, or maybe not till the finals, is how they've been playing? Because I know defensively they haven't been so great in the playoffs. They've been offensively have been really been clicking. Does the way the Cavaliers play, is it going to hurt them come the conference finals and come the finals time with their poor defense at this point? And can Toronto or Miami maybe expose that a little bit, or is it just Cavs all the way out of the East in your guys' mind? Nick, I don't know.
It was definitely Cavs all the way out of the East. I don't think they can continue to shoot how they've shot the ball. I think Kevin Love hit like 8 threes last game. I mean, because when you're playing the Warriors or maybe the Thunder or Spurs in the finals, they're not going to give you these wide open looks that the Atlanta Hawks are giving you and stuff like that. Football.
You were so confident about the Warriors making the finals before, but now I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I just didn't want to just. I wanted to just. There's a chance. There's a chance anybody could get it. I'm still gonna. We'll talk about that in a minute. But since we're talking about that right now, we could just jump into that right now if we wanted to.
Can I give my thoughts on the Cavaliers, please? I think that they're gonna. I agree with everything Nick said.
There you go. Well, I mean, everybody, I think, and we've been saying it throughout the videos we've done so far in the playoffs, it should be Cavaliers pretty easily out of the East. How they've played, I mean, people are trying to find ways to criticize because they haven't lost a game yet in the playoffs, but, I mean, they're winning basketball games, and it looks like it's going to be Cavaliers out of the East. Still waiting to see who they're going to play in that other matchup in the Eastern Conference, Toronto-Miami. Game 5 will be tomorrow night in Toronto. So then moving over to the Western side, we'll start with the first series, the 1-4 matchup, Golden State taking on Portland. Warriors won last night in overtime, 132 to 125. They go up now 3-1 in the series. Last night, Steph Curry, returning from that injury that he had, didn't start, came off the bench, had a pretty good game, 40 points, and had 17 of those in the overtime period. So Curry was huge, to say the least, for the Warriors last night. And now it looks like when Portland maybe had a chance at the beginning of this series with Curry out, didn't really take advantage of it, and now they find themselves down 3-1. So let's get into last night's game where Curry just basically went off in the overtime. Nobody could guard him. And I think it poses the question of, because everybody who knows and watches the videos, Paul is a Warriors hater, which, I mean, there are a lot of haters out there who don't like the Warriors. Paulie, I know you've said several times that you believe that Steph Curry is not the most valuable player to his team compared to others in the league, some of the other stars. And you've made your points. But last night, did that maybe at all change a little bit in your mind? Because without him in that overtime and really throughout the game, I think he shot like 50% from the field, shot it pretty good from three still. But, I mean, with that overtime, those 17 points, without him, I don't think the Warriors win that game. Does that maybe his performance last night change your mind at all, that he's not as valuable as you think? Or what are your thoughts?
No, I think what he showed last night is he scored a good amount in the paint, which was impressive. But to say that anybody in the league has been more valuable than LeBron has the last 7 or 8 years, it's just asinine. It's just not true. Because you take away Steph Curry from the Warriors, maybe they're not a championship team, they're still top 3 in the West. You take away LeBron from the Cavs, and they were a lottery team without LeBron. So, most valuable? No, he had a good game. I'm just going to put this out there now. If this was Russell Westbrook, Nick would be crucifying him right now for taking 32 shots or whatever. But Nick's golden boy Steph, so it's okay that Steph went 5 of 16 from 3. Totally fine. It's whatever. It's just got whatever. He's just so good. Maybe next game, Miles Plumlee will learn that on screen and rolls, you have to actually go play defense when the guy's a good three-point shooter. You can't stand at the free throw line. You gotta
You gotta hedge him. You gotta hedge him a little.
You gotta get up. I mean, if he's hitting 30 footers, he's hitting 30 footers. If he's getting by you in the lane, okay. But I mean, he's just letting him walk up to the 3-point line and shoot threes. I could have done that. But he played good. He played well. I'm not saying he didn't play well. I mean, the way that the MVP voting goes in the last 10 years, 20 years, whatever, it's just whoever has the best stats. And he definitely had the best stats this year. There's nobody that can come even close to him on that. But to say he has the most value on his team, that if you took him away from that team, they would lose that much value compared to LeBron. I think that's not even a question. Of course.
Strong statements. Nick, I don't know. Do you have anything to back up your boy Steph?
Paul's absolutely right. LeBron is the most valuable player to his team anywhere. Like you said, they went from lottery picks to number 1 seed in the East. But I think it's really obvious that the most valuable player isn't how they pick MVP every year. DeMarcus Cousins is probably more valuable to his team than a lot of other guys, but we're not going to put him up there because his team doesn't win. There's so many different factors that go into MVP voting. You mix in the stats, you mix in that his team set a record for most wins in a season. Like, that shouldn't count, but it does in the voters' minds. All the flashy plays he has all over SportsCenter, that stuff matters, and it counts. It shouldn't, but it does. That's how it is. We don't want the same guy winning. If most valuable player was most valuable player, LeBron would have won 7 years in a row, but nobody wants to see that happen. Nobody wants to see that happen.
I know.
My thing about Russell Westbrook shooting 32 times, Steph Curry was 16 of 32 yesterday, 50%. I think everybody will take that. Russell Westbrook today played good. He did play good, but he was 12 of 27. Still less of a percentage. I mean, I play the averages. I want a guy who's going to be efficient for me. He also turned it over 8 times today. Don't know if anybody saw that. And then here's the thing we could talk about with Steph yesterday. Steph wasn't shooting the ball good, but if you watch that game, he was setting up his teammates really well yesterday. I thought that was a big part of his game. Like you said, he was getting to the paint at will on McCollum whenever he was guarding him. And then actually, I'll say one thing. McCollum, way better than I ever thought he was. I really didn't get to watch him play a lot. Way better than I thought he was.
I was gonna go the other way, and how disappointing he was to me. I think the Trailblazers they coached that game. I think Terry Stotts, who I thought was gonna win Coach of the Year, I thought he coached so poorly because they kept running the same play with once again frickin' Plumlee. They set the three in a rows with Plumlee every time, with McCollum or with Damian Lillard. So obviously you're gonna leave Plumlee open and go double team McCollum or Lillard every single time. So they're always taking tough shots, especially McCollum. He would take the toughest shots every time. It's like, dude, you got to give the ball up at some point. But that's just another point, is that it took a superhuman effort from the Warriors, from Steph Curry, to beat the Trailblazers. Like, Ed Davis is playing serious minutes on this team. Al Camino is like the third best player.
But I
So
still
I
don't
think,
think this is the best Steph Curry that'll happen. Like this is first
no,
game
yeah,
back after
yeah.
not playing for weeks. So like
Right. But who are you more confident in right now? Who has played better this postseason, the Cavs or the Warriors? I don't think you need to question. It's the
definitely the
Cavs.
Cavs when you just talk about how they played, but then you look into who they played against. I think Portland would have ran all the teams the Cavs ran too. They wouldn't have swept them, but they would definitely get through them.
I think the Cavs just played well. Like I think the Pistons played well against the Cavs. The Hawks didn't, but the Pistons played well against the Cavs. It was a tough
The
series.
Pistons'
I
go-to
mean,
guy is a big man though, in a like an era where
yeah,
it's
it's
dominated by guard scoring. That's
right.
another reason about Steph Curry. He averaged 7 more. Who do you think should have won MVP this year?
Well, it depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about
Who do you
how
think should have won
MVP,
MVP?
who do I think is the most valuable player, or who do I
No, who
think
should have won
should have?
MVP?
Well, that's different than who's the most. Steph should have won MVP, obviously, but he's not the most valuable player.
Oh,
There's a
well.
big difference. You just agreed
Steph
with
should have
that
won
2 seconds
MVP.
ago.
Paulie's saying
Paul
we
Lamb just
need
said
different
Steph
awards.
Curry
You
should have
just
won
agreed with me on
MVP.
that 2 seconds ago.
Oh no,
They won't
most okay.
allow it.
But the thing is, it's obvious. I don't think we all need to say that the most valuable player to a team isn't going to win the MVP every year. Like Derrick Rose won the MVP that one year.
I think we need two awards. We need the most valuable player in the league, just in general, and then we need like an MVP team, most valuable player to the team. You know,
That's
that's. I
stupid.
mean,
I
Paul.
think that's
Paul.
stupid.
Well, Paul's
I
saying we need.
do. No,
From
I'm
what
with
I'm
you.
saying, Paul, we need two awards, is what I'm hearing.
LeBron would
At
win
least,
every year.
at least
Every
two
year.
awards.
Here's my
Yeah,
thing here.
well,
I'm gonna just offer you a little. Who do you think is better, Russell Westbrook or Kevin Durant now?
Kevin Durant. Yeah, I think Kevin Durant. I think Russell. I think he. One thing about Durant though is that he's way too passive. Like he's too afraid to go take the ball away from Westbrook.
And I think Russell Westbrook, to a point, can take the ball too much.
Well, yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Well,
Well,
regardless,
That was good teamwork.
I
well, I want to hear what you think.
I don't know, man. I think Steph's the best player in the world right now. There's no doubt about it. I think without him last night, that's just my opinion. I think without him last night, they don't win that game. It's tied 2-2. Do I say that the Warriors? I mean, yes, he's different because he is the best player in the world. He makes the Warriors so much better, but the Warriors would still, without Steph Curry, in my mind, I think they would be still one of the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. I think with the team they have, Steph makes them that much better. That's why they lost 9 games this year, because they had the best player in the world, and with the rest of that roster, I've never seen a team assembled that complements each other so well, and it's just such team basketball. So I mean, that Spurs team that won a year or two ago, everybody thought that was some of the greatest team basketball they've ever seen played. I mean, the Warriors topped it this year, and it's, I mean, just a year removed from how good that Spurs team was. So I think without him last night, yes, they lose that game. But, I mean, do the Warriors, I think they still win this series if Steph didn't play in all of it. I think it'd be a lot closer, but he's going to make it. That's why they're probably going to win it in 5 games. I mean, unless Portland somehow wins tomorrow night in Golden State or at the Warriors, I doubt that will happen. But I don't know. I think Paulie makes his points, but I think it's hard to. It seems like when Paulie bashes him, he just comes out and he does this. He scores 40 points last night, coming back off the injury, 17 of them coming in the overtime. I don't know. It's hard to find a lot not to like about his game. I mean, until he starts not performing. I mean, watch. It's going to start happening soon enough, and Paulie's going to be here.
If you got an hour,
Yeah, my thing about that is, though, I think he can perform for years, just the style of his game. It's not like he's a super explosive guy like Russ. Like, Russ is like asking to tear his ACL at some point here. I don't want it. I don't want that to happen or anything like that. But Steph could do this for a while. Shooters can last in this league.
He could.
That's the one thing helping Steph Curry in my mind, like his likability, is how much of a jackass Draymond Green is. because I'm starting to funnel all my hatred towards Draymond Green. I can't stand him.
I like
That's a whole
Draymond
nother.
Green a lot. What don't you like about him?
He's the worst kind of person. He gets he's the only person in the NBA not named LeBron James that can continue to yell at the refs after every play. Draymond Green has never committed a foul. Did you know that he's never committed one single foul? Because after every play, he's on the refs, screaming, yelling profanities, no technicals. He's always
I did
flexing
hear
his
that.
muscles. He goes out of his way to try to get triple. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of it now. It could take an hour. I'm just letting you
We
know.
could do a Warriors video. Just
So do you
Oh,
think Steph is the most valuable player on the Warriors, or do you think Draymond is? Or do you
I
think
think
Clay is? I think you might think Clay is.
I don't know. It's tough. I think they all have their different value. I think without Clay, you would be double teaming Steph every time, no question. I think the same with Draymond. I think the two of them, if you don't have them, if you don't have the second best shooter in the league and Clay Thompson in the corner, that opens up so many more possibilities on defense. What?
This has nothing to do with basketball at all, but what do you think about the Cubs walking Bryce Harper? I just want to know what you guys thought about
how
that.
do we just transition to the
I'm
Cubs?
sorry. I'm sorry.
All of
No,
this.
We're
that's
talking
fine.
about
No, that's
double
fine.
teaming. We're talking about double
I
teaming.
think you gotta. Make somebody else make a play. You're only as good as your weakest link. I mean, why not? What else do the Nationals have? I don't really watch baseball, so one of you could fill me in on that. But
Doyle, what do you think?
they don't have anything else.
It's why one, I hate to say it, I'm not a Cubs fan. I'm a White Sox loyal fan. Joe Madden is easily the best manager in baseball, and it just shows again why he is the best manager. Just strategic things like this early May, and he's like, yeah, we're just going to walk Bryce Harper, half of his at bats. I mean, I have nothing wrong with it. It's strategy. It's like when Popovich uses the hack-a-shack on DeAndre Jordan in the playoff. I mean, it's the best
You guys
coaches.
like that? I don't like the hack-a-shack thing, though.
I
That's my
don't.
thing.
That's a different conversation, but I don't mind it. I don't know how we just transitioned. I guess the double team. I guess that worked,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
My thing is, like, you have to ban double teams if we're going to ban intentionally walking a guy every time he's up. I mean, you're giving the guy a free base. If they can't knock him in, that's just a bad team.
That's true. I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, Steph Curry last night, huge to say the least in that game. They won in overtime. He had the 40 points off the injury, so we've had a
Going to
lot
the
of
Cubs game
debate.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, there you go. Tomorrow night, Warriors with the chance to clinch that series. They're up 3-1, so we'll see. I mean, there's been a lot of debate, especially between the two of you, and I know we've talked a lot of Steph Curry throughout the season, and there'll still be a lot of talk. Assuming the Warriors win, they'll keep it going. So moving into the last matchup over on the West, Spurs Thunder actually just played tonight. Just got done right before we started the video. Thunder have won the last two games. They now lead that series 3-2. And the Spurs, man, it's been a great series. Just if people have been watching it, it's been back and forth. And the Thunder the last two games, really the story has been dominance in the fourth quarter, which we really haven't seen out of the Thunder. We've seen a lot throughout the playoffs. Westbrook and Durant not coming through in fourth quarters, and the last two fourth quarters they've been clutch, especially Westbrook. And the Spurs, who are usually just so dominant at closing out games, back-to-back fourth quarters they've had less than 20 points, and now the Thunder with that 3-2 series lead are really feeling good. I mean, this was a great game. I know there's been a little bit of controversy throughout the series. Game 2 when Ginobili was bumped by waiters out of bounds. Just this game, if you watch the end of this one, with like 8 seconds left, they threw it into Westbrook. Looked like Leonard literally like hugged him. I mean, wasn't trying to foul him hard, but was easily trying to intentionally foul. No foul was called. Westbrook had the presence of mind. Everybody stopped playing because everybody thought the foul was going to be called. Westbrook had the presence of mind, went to the rim, got fouled, and won, and that basically ended the game. So it's been a little bit of an interesting refereeing in this series, to say the least. And I know Paul and I had said the Golden State-Portland game last night, some interesting calls in that one. But I don't know. Now the Thunder up a game. Game 6 going to be, I believe, that's Thursday night. Back at the Thunder, so OKC with a chance to close out at home. Is there any way the Spurs maybe win Game 6, especially losing the last two? And they just seem to have lost a lot of momentum. And do the Thunder beat the Spurs? I mean, this has been a great series. I don't know. Where do you guys see this one going after tonight now? Nick, we can start with you.
Last week I was all on the Spurs, mainly because I don't like Russell Westbrook. But what Paul said last week when he said the Spurs can't finish games, he was absolutely right. They're too old. It's that simple, and they got nobody to go to. Tony Parker took the final shot to try to tie the game here. I don't know why he's taking it when you got Kawhi Leonard. But then Tim Duncan looks like he's in so much pain just running up and down the court. I don't know why he is still playing meaningful minutes on this team. I think just OKC's just got too much firepower for the Spurs right now. They're too old. They can obviously maintain the lead, but they just don't got a guy that can finish it right now. And you need a guy that's going to finish it at this point in the season. Horrible refereeing at the end, but I still just don't think the Spurs tie it up, even if Russ goes to the line and they're down 3 instead of 4.
So what
Yeah,
do you have Thunder winning the next game then, or what?
Yeah, I
Just-
feel like just on Popovich alone, they probably win in OKC, but I think the Spurs lose it in the game 7
At home and
at home. I think they lose it at home. I
Okay.
just
All right.
dangerous.
Paulie, what are your thoughts?
I don't think he gets to 7. I think the Thunder win the next one. I can accept the Spurs. They've just been disappointing. I don't know. They're just not like really Spurs anymore. They're great for the first half. Marcus Aldridge is good for the first half. They're Kawhi Leonard, but then they come to the fourth quarter and like they don't really know what to do. I don't think the Thunder are really. They haven't impressed me either. I think the Warriors, if they get through the Trailblazers, I think the Warriors walk through either of those teams. I think easily. It hurts me to say, but I think both those teams have just shown like I don't know, they're just missing something.
Yeah,
They haven't scored well. They haven't
I
played
think the
defense.
Spurs are missing that role player they normally have. It's been like Boris Diaw, Danny Green, Patty Mills, and normally Ginobili even plays well. And none of those guys are doing really anything right now. It's been all Aldridge or Leonard. They don't have that other guy.
and like you said, Duncan, Nick. I mean, last year he was so much healthier at this point than he is this year, and that's why you're seeing guys like David West and Boris Diaw, who would be those role players the Spurs usually have, but they're having to play a lot more minutes because of Duncan having to be out because he's just not healthy right now. And I think that's been the big difference is not having Tim Duncan. I mean, if he was healthy at this point, I think he'd be right around 12, 14 points a game and just an added lift. And then those guys who usually come off the bench and give them productive minutes would do that. But those guys right now are having to play so many more minutes than they would. And I think that's just kind of thrown the Spurs rotation in kind of a rut, and that's why we've seen them lose these last 2 games. And I don't know. I've got the Thunder winning the next game. I don't see the Spurs coming out of it. I think they're just riding so much momentum, especially playing at home, chance to clinch it. And I agree with Paul. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough. I think the Thunder have enough firepower where if they do play Golden State in the next series, I think it will be somewhat competitive, but not very. But I don't know. That will be a video for next week because by the time next Tuesday, all these series will be done, and then we'll have our conference finals games or matchups set. So, Nick, what do you have?
I would say the main reason I don't want the Thunder to advance is because I'm getting tired of watching Cameron Payne all over the camera.
Yeah.
He is pissing me off. He's like the guy that just goes on social media after the game and is like, man, I love my team. We've been working so hard, and he hasn't played a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Not a minute. But if you didn't watch them play, you would think he's the guy.
I
I
agree.
don't know a guy like that. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
You're
yeah,
a bench player. You eat it. You don't say nothing. I've been through it. You just sit there and you watch the games.
Nick knows.
If they ask you about it, you say, yeah, I watched us do this. You say watched. You don't say played.
Well, you might be seeing a lot of them, especially if they clinch that series. They play Thursday night in OKC, so that's where the playoffs are at right now. A lot of these second-round matchups are almost over, and as I said, by the time next Tuesday we'll do another video, will be probably more predictions for the conference finals as those matchups will be set. So playoffs, full swing. We're getting close to the finals, and then basketball will kind of be somewhat over for the summer. NBA draft coming up. Still a lot of basketball news, and we'll have all that covered for you here. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Crossover Report. You can like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us right here on YouTube, and then you can always visit us, crossoverreport.com. So, going to do it for us tonight, guys. Anything before we head out? Nick's got his bear that he probably sleeps with.
Got this bear when I was 10.
There you go. It's kind of weird, but okay. Ollie, you got anything? Nothing?
No. It's
All right.
to be over. So
Watch me and Barry on Crosstalk Thursday.
There we go. Crosstalk Thursday. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. I want to thank everybody for all the support. And we'll see you next Tuesday for more NBA playoffs. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. 3 guys, 1 mic, Crossover Report. We'll see you next time.